Today we're going to show the process that we use for heat treating these two knives that we're seeing here. The thing that you're not seeing is that I put some anti-scale and compound on those so that the blades don't decarbonize. So here you can see the temperature is rising. It needs to get to 1475, and then I let it soak for a period of time. That's shutting off that timer. And now I'm taking the Bowie knife out first and I'm going to quench it in Parks 50 quenching oil, which is the best for simulating water quenching. I'm going to check to make sure it's straight. This is probably the time I could do a little bit of adjustment if there is a warp in the blade, but all the stars were aligned and we're not warped at all. And this is a much thicker knife, so I'm worried more about the next knife, its ability. I'm using a Rockwell hardness tester here. This is a 65, and you can see it skates on that, so hard to see. Um, which means it's definitely hard, right? That's what I want it to be. I'm going to clean it off a little bit, and we're now actually ready for the next knife to come out. This is the one that's a little bit thinner, so we'll keep our fingers crossed that this comes out with no warping. And you are noticing there's no dramatic flare up. If you keep the knife submerged in the oil, it doesn't get the fire flare up with dramatic effects. But here we are. I'm checking. I'm knocking the anti-scale compound off, checking the blade for any warps, and then it looks good. Again, stars are lined up. I usually keep it quenching or cooling until no more smoke comes off the blade. But here you're going to see the blade. You see how it's nice and clean on that part. That's where the anti-scale was. The parts that are black are scale, right? That's what you don't want on your knives, especially on the Damascus. So again, this is hardness is 65, and this this is exactly what I want it to be. So I'm using my new temperature controller. If you're interested in what I use for a temperature controller, I'll put it in the description. You could see what I was using, but I built this up, and if you are interested, I can definitely make a video on how I built this controller. But I'm plugging it in, and the controller is coming up. It's booting up. It's powered up now. You can see the temperature set to 232. I'm using a very cheap um, toaster oven here, and you can see it's on. It's asking for temp. Here we go. I'm putting a couple knives, the blades in here. I'm going to cook this for a couple hours at 450 degrees. That should bring it down to between 45 and 50. Actually, I'm sorry, between um, 50 and 55. That's what I want it to be. So you can see it's got a few degrees to go. All right, well, I'm an hour and 15 minutes into it. Um, this controller has been great. This hasn't drifted even 1 degree up or down. So an hour, I think it's an hour and 15 minutes in, and every time I've come and looked, it's dead nuts on 232. So 450 is what I'm hoping for. Um, Actually, the one thing I forgot to do, which I think will make it even better, since I have to have a timer on, I used to have the oven on this timer controller that I could set for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 8 hours. I'm gonna plug it into that next time and set it for the 2 hours, and it'll shut off automatically. I don't have to keep going back and forth to my phone and make sure that the those 2 hours haven't come up. But great progress. All right, time's up. Again, just dead nuts right on the temperature. Before I had this, I mean, it's a fairly cheap toaster oven, and it used to swing at least 10 to 30 degrees back in, or above and below the temperature that this crazy, very accurate dial had in here. So I'm just excited that this is working.